So, are you a little bit scared of what's going on right now back in the US? And as the saying goes, if the US sneezes, the world might catch a cold. So, unfortunately, there's some scary things happening right now. And we just wanted to have a conversation based on our experiences and kind of our own thoughts about it. Because you may not get to choose when you retire. We were lucky, we kind of beat the rush. But if you look around, layoffs are happening, not just at the government. Markets are not really happy with some of the things that are going on. Recession chances are now being talked about as almost likely. So it can be a little bit of a scary time. And we really wanted to give you, you know, kind of a checklist or a thought process for approaching what may happen. Because once it happens, if unfortunately, you are one of those people who suddenly finds themselves without a job, it's the most stressful time if you haven't prepared. It's going to be stressful even if you have prepared.
Yes. And for that reason, we prepared big questions. And the first one is your home.
Of course. Yeah. It's your biggest item. It may be your biggest asset. It may be your biggest liability. If you've still got a mortgage on it, it may be your biggest expense. It is for most of us. We were spending, nearly, over $2,500 a month for, the basics of having a house, the payments, the insurance, taxes, and all that. And it wasn't a big place. It just was in a fairly high cost area. And I know that a lot of people, if you add up your rent utilities, you're pushing towards that number. And that's why we always say that if we had tried to retire or been retired in the US with we wouldn't have been able to. We would have had to go back to work and doing something.
Yeah, for that reason, can you afford to stay on it?
Yeah. Can you afford your house? If something happens to your job, hopefully it's paid off and it's not too expensive with all those other fees and utilities and everything else. But that's a big question. If not, now's the time to start planning. Good news is it's probably worth as much as it's ever been worth. The market has been great for the last many, many years. It seems to be softening from what I'm hearing from friends back home. And obviously there's potentials if there is a recession that things could get, even tougher. But like I said, the good news is it's probably worth as much as it's ever been worth, and you might be able to get rid of it pretty quickly. And interest rates should come down as the economy slows, but still, you just don't want to be caught with an albatross. And that kind of goes into the second part of it, which is, do you have a second home?
Can you afford to have two houses?
Exactly. It's just double the effort, double the cost, double the maintenance. Now, again, if you're lucky enough to be in a position where that doesn't matter to you, great, you won. So, and the other thing we mentioned in a previous video was, even if you paid off your home and you own it outright, you still have all those other costs. And, you really need to think about what those other costs are and what they add up to, because I was amazed at how much those, utilities, taxes, insurance, maintenance, HOA fees, and all those things add up to every month. It was basically as much as I would pay for rent in a really nice apartment.
The next big one is, can you live away from your family and friends?
Yeah, whether hit the road like us or move to another place, another country, another state, even just another city in your own state. If you're going to, give up all those things that you've known from friends and families and church and, clubs and all those things, it's a big step to take. Again, some of those things have their own costs associated with them and you may need to give them up. But if not, just think through, what kind of life you want to experience or want to have after that, and be ready to make some tough choices.
The next one is, what are your options?
Yeah. So you decide, or have life decided for you. So really there's, you can stay in place. If you can afford it, great. You can continue living the same life. You won. I mean, if you can afford the life you have today in retirement, why are you still working? But no, congratulations. You get to live exactly the life you hopefully love.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't, maybe you're looking for something different. You could downsize, relocate, just go to a different place, either in your area, your state, or within the country. Those are all great options. Just lowering your costs, making your life a little bit less stressful is a good option. Now, another option is, we tried that once, was to move to another country.
Yeah, moving to another country, you also need to do your research.
Oh,
You
yeah.
need to consider the taxes, also learning a new language, maybe.
Or
Um,
failing at learning a language.
yeah, it's a totally different lifestyle, and so it's some things to keep in mind.
Yeah, that's why we highly recommend going and spending an extended period of time before you actually commit to getting a visa and all of the costs associated with it. There are
Mhm.
many countries that allow you to stay for 2 and 3 months at a time. Some of them that allow you to kind of hop in and out. There's some very inexpensive visas for, you know, 6 months and more, like the new Thailand visa. We can talk about that in another video, but really don't just pull the trigger and jump because you visited a place once and think you're going to love living there, because living there is not a vacation. So the next option,
It's
though,
not the same.
yeah,
Yeah, the next option is what we did. We decide that we want to travel to see the world, enjoy, and the most important thing, spend less money traveling than staying where we used to live.
yeah, it is truly amazing, and especially when you find some of the lower cost areas of the world. Who were here in Vietnam, and we were in Thailand. Southeast Asia is still, thankfully, a very cost effective place to spend extended periods of time. Not to mention, it's beautiful. The food's amazing. The beaches and water are warm and gorgeous. You just got to make sure you hit the right time of year. We've been a little unlucky with some weather. We had a lot of clouds and rain over the couple months we've been in Vietnam, which is a little unusual. Our timing was just a little off, but still, we have enjoyed our time here
Yes.
immensely.
Hmm.
So, what do you do now? I mean, hopefully, we haven't scared you too much, but if you are concerned, if you are thinking, yikes, what happens if? Well, the first step is you need to either build or update your retirement plan. And I'm not just talking finances, but a whole life plan. But the first place to start is with a financial planner. We recommend the fee only, somebody who just charges you for the time that you spend with them. And to build a plan, it includes things about taxes and travel and your vacations and giving money to kids and all that stuff. It includes all of that. And that's why you want a professional involved, because if you try to do it by yourself with even really good software out there, I guarantee you're going to be wrong by a lot. My spreadsheets are as useless as you can imagine.
The next one is build a realistic list of your expenses. What is your money going?
Yeah, and this really is, if your life gets turned upside down and you transition from working to retired without really your choice, and suddenly all of those expenses are hitting you, you want to know where your money's going. Now, if you want to have all of those streaming services and cable and gym memberships and golf clubs or whatever it is you do, great. But if the money's not coming in the door anymore, can you really afford them all? And what would be the first things you'd want to cut? And do you cut those now? Because, money in the bank is going to be really valuable when that time comes. Even if it's as I say, even if it's your choice, trust me, the extra dollars in the bank account would have been really nice. I didn't need those 4 subscription services I was paying for.
Yeah. Another one that is very important is take a realistic look at your house in the market.
Yeah. Yeah. If you have somebody you worked with in real estate in the past, an agent, great. If not, find somebody who works in your area. Really understand what the market looks like. It changes all the time. Keep up to date. Just, taking a snapshot today doesn't mean it's valid a week from now or a month from now.
Hmm.
But yeah, really understand what your house would be worth, what your house would be worth if you fixed it up a little bit. Are you willing to do that? What do you want to do with it? Because again, whether it's your choice or not, if the choice includes getting rid of that house or the second house, the sooner you act on it, at least knowing what to do, the better off you will be. It'll take a lot of that stress off and the pressure to do something right away.
Yeah. And the next one and the last one is if you want to relocate, what's the option?
Research, research, research. Yeah. Do yourself a favor. If you're thinking like, oh, I've always loved spending our vacations in Mexico, well, go live in Mexico for as much as time as you can spend. But don't go through the visa process and jump into a year-long lease, because you may not really enjoy living, because it's not a vacation. It's different.
We also recommend, what's the name of the website that
Yes.
give you a lot of
Cost.
perfect information about
Cost of
the,
living.
the countries?
Yeah. So it's called Numbeo. I'll put it in a link below. It's just a website that does not sponsor us, sadly. But yeah, you can put in where you currently live or where you think you want to live and another place, and it'll give you the cost of living broken down by the price of eggs, yay, but rents and cokes and beers and all these things, and just kind of your normal lifestyle. What does it cost to live in a place? And it was pretty accurate when we used it before settling down in Portugal.
Yes.
And it's been pretty accurate for traveling around Southeast Asia. Live in a neighborhood. So
yeah.
So now we're going to talk about us. So if you decide like, hey, that lifestyle looks good, we want to travel. Maybe you don't want to travel full time. That's fine. Travel part time. Take extended trips. Again, if you have a house back home that's sitting empty, that's a lot of cost sitting there potentially. But there are ways to do it. There's home exchanges. I have done those before. They actually have been great. There's other ways of doing it. You rent your house out longer term to somebody, or you can get rid of it. But there are some ways to keep your costs down. Consider house sitting, staying, when you come back to the States, stay with relatives, friends, the kids, sure they'd love that.
I would suggest for that, I would suggest to do better the short-term rental.
Yes. Hotels work too. We are spending most of our time now in hotels in this part of the world because it's very inexpensive compared to elsewhere. And we get a lot of benefits, as we've talked about in other videos, with the perks that we get for being loyal customers. Now, some things to know. Most countries have a time limit on how long you can spend there. In fact, almost all of them, some of them up to a year, like Albania, for American citizens, that is. But even Vietnam is 90 days. Thailand is 60 days. You can get an extension. There's some pretty easy tourist extension visas you can get in some of these countries. Europe is tougher because they have the Schengen, and that's 31 countries now that only give you 90 days, and then you have to leave for 90. So a quarter, of the year you be there, a quarter, and then they have to leave for a quarter. And it can be very difficult to juggle, and it's hard to experience a place when you're trying to, only stay a limited amount of time. So,
or even though we extend our visa in Portugal the first time that we went there, and some of the countries in Europe, they let you extend the visa very easy.
Very true. Well, I wouldn't say very easy, but yeah, you can pay to extend your visa in a couple of the countries there. You can research that. You can ask us questions about it, but our experience is fairly limited. One thing I will say about travel, the more often you move, the more it costs. Travel days are not only exhausting, but they're pretty darn expensive. So that's why we have slowed down from the monthly slow travel lifestyle in Airbnbs to the, generally multiple months in a country. Even if we tend to move, a couple of times within the country in that 2 or 3 months, it's still less expensive just to fly within a country than it is to change regions like we did the first year.
Yeah, and some of the countries have a train transportation, which is really most of the time is affordable, so that helps too.
Yep, absolutely. Trains are great ways to travel.
Yeah.
As we've said many times, this lifestyle is not a vacation. It's the biggest mistake we made. It's a mistake a lot of people make. They jump on the road and they treat it like a never-ending vacation. And a 2-week vacation is the most expensive travel you can possibly come up with, short of going into space, I guess. But yeah, understand that you need to plan ahead and set realistic budgets and balance low cost areas with high cost areas. It will make your life a lot easier when you don't get to the end of a 4, 5, 6 month period and realize you spent all the year's budget. So anyway, we did just want to make this video, kind of talk about what is currently happening, possibly what's stressing you out, let you know what we've experienced. If you have questions, please ask us. Please share your experiences. If you're one of the folks who's out on the road now, we meet you in the hotels and around the towns, so it's fun. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you for watching.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.